We are changect.org, and this is Truth Talk News. Imagine, if you will, a world where elitist psychopaths control all aspects of human life. A world where men and women embrace their servitude and are compliant debt slaves. Truth Talk News, where understanding the New World Order is easy if you only take the time to seek the truth. The Twilight Zone music is not for effect, ladies and gentlemen. It really is like a Twilight Zone. We have the government shutting down, which is all absolute theater, absolute fabrication, bullshit, and terrible political usage of power. It's unreal. You have authoritarian measures put into place that really stick it to people, like the veterans, closing the veterans things down and stopping Amber Alerts. Thankfully, people had complained about this, and now, of course, the Amber website is now working. But what's really interesting is how they used all of this government propaganda shutdown thing. We're not going to default. We have plenty of money to pay our bills. We even have money for the debt ceiling increase. The problem is this trend will lead to utter devastation, and of course it's market manipulation involved here with the markets. And Obama's playing with fire here. Let's face it. Now, there are some really angry people, because when you would go to the Amber Alert Center, of course, the website, it would say that due to the lapse in federal funding, this office is unavailable. So they've been closing things like national parks. They kicked a woman and her husband out of their own home because it was on federal land. And they can't go to. They have to live in somewhere else. I mean, until the government comes back on, and they're showing all these stories how people are making up all these things. Meanwhile, FEMA called up more people because of the hurricane season. I don't know. I mean, the whole thing is just a farce, if you ask me. But what's worse about it is that you have this politicizing of really important things and using services and things that we the people own. You're closing. We the people own all this. I think everyone forgets that. Certainly the government does. And there are some, like I said, angry people. I don't even know how to. I can't even read some of these comments from this posting of the right scoop. But if you go check it out, you'll freak out when you see some of the comments. I'll say one thing. What do you expect from a family that comes up with a school lunch program that starves kids and wastes food? Nearly every school that is on the Obama school lunch program has had many more complaints of the amount of fresh food. The highest cost food schools have in this program that is not being eaten and instead being dumped in the trash. The only way this politics can get people to eat things they don't want or don't like is to starve them, and then they eat just to stay alive. This really does not help schools have high academics when the students are starving. That was from Craven. A whole bunch of other people on here said a whole bunch of things, and I don't want to get into it because, it's certainly, there's a lot of angry people out there, and they're trying to make out like everybody loves Obama, everyone's great, and they want to, the left is just going nuts, saying how wonderful he still is, and Obamacare is going to be this great, wonderful thing, and the right are just, are spewing their thing, and everyone's mixing up the pot. Believe me, the Democrats and the Republicans, they all work for the same corporations and interests. Believe you me, it's not the people's interests. The people's interest is to stop all the shit. Honestly, 17% of the government shutdown, we're living, we're surviving, keep it shut down. Work it out. I'm sorry, some more people on the hey, this is what's got to be done. Because Obama's great economy that he's bringing back certainly can absorb another 800,000 jobs, since he has made only 1 million jobs in 5 or 8 years or whatever it is, 7 years, 6 years. I wish it was 8 years. Oh God, there's a wish fulfillment there. Anyway, but getting back to the reality here, a lot of weird things also happening. Why the media is not covering this, I have no idea. But over the weekend in Arkansas, the electrical grid was hit with a terrorist attack, leaving 10,000 people without power. And on the metal grid panel, they wrote, "You should have expected U.S." Okay? And more than 10,000 people in Arkansas were dumped into a blackout Sunday following a pair of attacks at the state's electric grid, the FBI said today. The third such attack in recent weeks. What third such attack? I haven't heard about any of this on the news. In August, a major transmission line in the region around Cabot, Arkansas, was deliberately cut. So someone deliberately cut a feed. I mean, they think it's kids, so it's not terrorism. Please. Or, with the FBI, they actually could have cut the lines themselves. But that aside, though we remain confident that we will identify the person or persons responsible for these incidents, the FBI said in a press release, we are enlisting the public's help to be our eyes and ears. And we are taking threats to our power grid very seriously. And I think it's a very big threat. I think our power grid is extremely vulnerable, and I'm prepared. I mean, I've got generators, I've got, fuel and things like that in the event that something goes down. We lose power. We had a big storm here in Connecticut. People were going nuts. They were going nuts. The Northeast were going nuts because they couldn't get gasoline for a week, and people were freaking out. Meanwhile, I'm not going to say how much gasoline I have because somebody might be listening, but it's more than 3 gallons, and certainly enough to survive for a week. These sheep don't know what they're doing when there is some sort of an event or a calamity. Those that are not prepared go into mayhem. They just, they freak out. They're like, oh! And it happens all the time. Goddamn snowstorm happens. People go nuts. They have to run to the store and buy milk and eggs and bread. Like, where did you learn this? Anyway, I suppose that's part of the programming. I suppose that's part of the entire system to keep us controlled, as I mentioned earlier, as this whole Twilight Zone world that we're in. And here we are, we're standing here. Benghazi, Al-Qaeda connection. What a shock. Can you believe it? That there's a connection between Al-Qaeda and Benghazi, and they've been covering this thing up? Oh my God. Of course, it's so unbelievable how much, and believe me, the Republicans are just as guilty. They have just as much blood on their hands. So do the Democrats, especially with Benghazi, because we have a situation that is not partisan here, but they're making it partisan, just like they make Al Sharpton divide the races, and they pick their little games, they pick their little talking points in their little battles against gun control, and we have to be able to give children abortions. They need it. They don't want to ruin their lives with a child, as Obama said himself. So when we have this kind of an attitude, when it comes out that American ambassador and other Americans that work for our government that swore to uphold the Constitution and protect our nation aren't protected by our nation when they're under attack, and you want us to shut up about that. You want us to shut up about Fast and Furious. Books being written, and they, don't put this book out. This is the most closed administration in history. It is a fascist / it's like a hybrid fascist, socialist, communist, a hybrid GMO product. Just as cancerous and disgusting as the GMO and all the other companies that are in bed with this government, the shadow government, makes everything happen. The corporation of the United States. What's going on here? We've got, Monsanto in with the FDA, and everyone's going in and out of the FDA. Back to Monsanto, into the FDA, back. And the same thing goes with all the regulatory agencies. The FDA just got caught, in fact, this is the newest thing, that the pharmaceutical firms are paying to attend meetings of panels that advise the ADA. So the pharmaceutical firms actually pay for the meetings. So a scientific panel that shaped the federal government's policy for testing the safety and effectiveness of painkillers was funded by major pharmaceutical companies that paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for the chance to affect the thinking of the Food and Drug Administration, according to hundreds of emails obtained by a public records request. The emails show that the companies paid as much as $25,000 to attend any given meeting of the panel, which had been set up for two academics to provide advice to the FDA on how to weigh the evidence from clinical trials. Well, that's what I'm talking about. These clinical trials are phony, they're bogus. My good friend and my brother, Len Horowitz, Dr. Len Horowitz, has gone over this, written books on this. He's been out on this for 20 years. And we're dealing with a pharmaceutical mafia, okay, for lack of a better word, that has everybody brainwashed that they need to take their products and use their poisons and help to the depopulation, is part of the depopulation program. I know it's a lot of heavy information for most of you folks maybe that have never heard about any of this, but a lot of you also people that have are thinking, yep, that's right, because it's right. The pharmaceutical industry, Obamacare is a genocidal plan. It's like T4 to kill and depopulate. They're all about Planned Parenthood. Abortion is great. And down the road with this, if Obama is shutting down all these things and with in spite, and that's what it is, in spite, to spite the Republicans, which is just asinine, and not that the Republicans aren't asinine themselves, as I've said before, but to spite the situation, he shuts down these things. So you don't think that in the future, when Obamacare is implemented in all its train wreck glory, that they can't just decide, oh, well, not this, I guess Granny's going to die, so 20,000 senior citizens drop dead because of something like this? You don't think it's going that way? You don't see where this is going? You don't understand freedom and liberty then, and why we have to make the change that has to be made in this country and restore our republic and elect Robbie Wells president. Now, Robbie Wells is someone you have to check out. Go to RobbieWells2016.com. The only way we're going to get through this mess is to get past this left-right paradigm. The right wing and the left wing. Robbie Wells is the middle of the bird. And bring everybody together and do what's best for this country, not what's best for corporate interests, political interests, but what's best for the average American citizen. RobbieWells2016.com. Okay, so the pharmaceutical industries are criminals. We know that. They are all about money, and they will do anything and tell you things are safe, vaccines are safe, sure. And then they give you all this rhetoric out there that you have to get your flu shots. Meanwhile, everywhere you're going, flu shots, shingle shots, shots this, get that. 90% of the commercials on television are drug commercials. They're the number one advertiser in all of the mediums. The pharmaceutical industry, by far, is the largest advertiser. And this has to be understood as to why and what's going on. It's a lot more than just wanting to, promote their products, their poisons that, take Humira, it causes cancer. Take, all of these drugs cause cancer side effects, liver failure. It's hysterical. But people buy it. People buy into what the doctor in the white coat says. These brainwashed sheeple. Here come the sheep. That's it. Don't be a sheeple. In fact, look what's happening here overseas. A law that does not prohibit sex selection abortions. In other words, guidance by the British Medical Association advised doctors that there may be circumstances in which termination of pregnancy on grounds of fetal sex would be lawful. So we're moving into this tremendous New World Order, one world government, depopulation plan, and it's happening. And your child, my children, and all of humanity is at risk by a bunch of absolute insane, mad scientists, psychopaths that would make Dr. Frankenstein and Jack the Ripper look like choir boys. And by the way, they want to destroy religion, so the hell with the choir boys as far as they're concerned. It's unreal. It's all true. It's happening.